Pad Kee Mao is the perfect customizable noodle dish. You get tons of smoky, charred noodles, spicy sweet sauce, and the vegetables and protein are pretty much up to you. Let me show you the framework on how to make it. Welcome back to my ongoing series where I teach recipes starting from the easiest all the way up to multi-step intensive showstoppers. Let this be your invitation to step into the kitchen and join me on this journey. For today, stir frying is the name of the game. This is the process of cooking ingredients in a really hot wok or pan with a little bit of oil. Think of it as sauteing with more heat. Oil is important here as it's gonna act as a conductor for all of the heat that's going into the pan, and it's important to not overcrowd that pan. The more ingredients added, the more the temperature drops, which causes boiling rather than stir frying. In the case of this Pad Kee Mao, we can do almost all of the work up front. That way we can stir fry all of our components in about 5 minutes or so. Before I get into this Pad Kee Mao recipe, let me give you the full template on how you can make this your own. The chili paste, of course, is required, but the amount of chilies is up to you. Replace the chilies with serranos if you can't find Thai chili peppers. If you keep a ratio of 6 ounces of dried noodles, 6 ounces of protein, and 6 ounces of vegetables, you're pretty much set to go. I've got a list of different protein and vegetable alternatives in my full blog post, which is linked in the description. The wok is really nice, but can totally be replaced with cast iron in a pinch. The sauce is gonna stay the same and it'll work every time. With that, you're ready to set off on your own and create tons of different variations and versions that suit your preferences. Equipment-wise, we'll need a knife, a cutting board, a wok, a food processor or mortar and pestle, a pot for our noodles. A scale is pretty important here, I'd argue, a spatula, a peeler if you're gonna use carrots or some sort of vegetable with the skin, and a couple bowls. I always like having bowls around. Our chili paste is gonna bring a ton of the flavor that really defines this dish. Pad Kee Mao is often referred to as drunken noodles, which isn't in reference to any alcohol that's in the dish. It's sort of in reference to the person cooking it being drunk and in need of something that's gonna be spicy enough to sort of sober them up. For about 2 servings, I like to think of this as like a big, nice takeaway portion. Start with 3 green Thai chilies, 3 cloves of garlic, and half a shallot. Remove the stems from your chilies and any paper from your garlic and shallots, and then add them to your mortar and pestle or the base of your food processor. Take this into a semi-chunky paste like this. You don't want this super smooth, you actually need a little bit of texture here so it doesn't cook too fast in the wok. If you go the mortar and pestle route, break down the chilies first so you don't end up with a lot of large pepper pieces. I think it's really important that this dish is spicy. It's one of the key flavor profiles. So 3 chilies is what tastes right to me. It sort of pushes the bounds of hot and spicy for me personally. So this is where you can define your own spice level. If you want to go hotter, add another pepper. I would say that's really spicy, or you could just go down to 1 for a much milder experience. The sauce that we're gonna make is gonna bring a ton of salty, savory goodness to coat our noodles. We'll be using oyster sauce, which is thick, salty, and sweet. Classic in Thai and Chinese cooking. We'll use fish sauce, which is super salty and a little bit fishy. It smells a lot stronger than it tastes though, so don't worry about it. We'll use dark soy sauce, which brings color and a little bit of depth. Lastly, we'll use golden mountain sauce. This is a Thai seasoning sauce that's basically a more flavorful soy. It's saltier and sweeter, so if you can't find it, replace it with regular soy and a little bit of sugar. To make our sauce, combine 1.5 tablespoons of oyster sauce, 3/4 tablespoon of fish sauce, 3/4 tablespoon of dark soy, and 3/4 tablespoon of golden mountain sauce. You can see there's a 2 to 1 to 1 to 1 ratio going on here. Mix that together and you've got your sauce. It's pretty straightforward, but it's super flavorful. For our veggies, these really couldn't be any simpler. Slice 6 ounces of pretty much any veggie you'd like in a stir fry and set it aside. For me, I'm gonna go with carrot along with red bell pepper for some nice crunch and watery snap. For the carrot, peel it using a Y peeler preferably, and take it into a few pieces that are as long as you'd like the final julienne to be. Square one of the sides and then cut the carrots into planks. Take those planks and slice them into our final julienne to be stir fried in the wok later. Our bell pepper is pretty easy as well, and I walked through this in depth in my chili video. Take the top and bottom off of the bell pepper and then slice off the cheeks from the center cylinder. In our case, I really only need half of it. Slice these cheeks into a julienne and set those in the same bowl as the carrot. These will both cook in about the same time, as long as the carrots aren't super thick compared to the bell peppers. They are a denser vegetable, so they will need a little bit of time to cook. For a protein, this also could pretty much be anything. Like I said, this dish is so customizable. If you're using seafood, don't worry about seasoning beforehand, but if you use chicken, pork, or steak, it's a good idea to salt it so it retains some of the juiciness in the pan. You could do a sort of marinade or velveting, but but I'm not gonna worry about that too much. I just like a little bit of salt on it. Slice 1 chicken breast or 6 ounces of desired protein into thin, bite-sized pieces. If your breast is particularly large, cut it in half down the middle lengthwise before slicing it. Place this in a bowl and season it with a large pinch of kosher salt, maybe like 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon. Mix that in thoroughly, and this can just sit and hang out for the next few minutes while we handle the noodles and the final pieces of the puzzle. The noodles are arguably the best part of the dish, so it's important to take them seriously. Fresh rice noodles would absolutely be better here, but they can be kind of tricky to find. I live in Seattle, a city with a lot of Asian grocery stores, and I still couldn't find fresh, wide rice noodles. It's easy to find thin ones like this, but these are for pad thai, a totally different dish. With that in mind, I've been making this with these dried noodles that I'll link to below, and here's how I cook them to make sure that they aren't mushy or falling apart by the end. Get a pot of water boiling on the stove and measure out 6 ounces of the dried noodles. Place your noodles in the boiling water and put the lid on, turn the heat off, and set a timer for 10 minutes. Every few minutes, open the lid, give these a stir so the noodles don't stick together. The nice thing is though that this gives us a pretty long window of the correct texture. After that 10 minutes is up, wash the noodles in cold water to stop them from cooking much further, and then separate any noodles that are stuck together if you didn't do a great job stirring often enough. Any super large noodle nests won't soak up the sauce correctly and may end up being a little bit too chewy. Drain these, set them aside, and grab your wok along with all your prepped ingredients. There are 2 last things that we need. A little white sugar, probably like a teaspoon or less depending on your taste, along with a big handful of washed basil. I just use Italian basil. It works really, really well here. It gives you a nice herbal, sort of aromatic flavor that permeates the whole dish. So we are ready to fry all this and embark on this stir-fry journey. The order that we're gonna do this in is super important, so have everything nearby and ready to go as we heat our wok over high heat on our largest burner. Turn your fan on, open a window, and open any vents just to make sure that you don't accidentally pepper spray yourself while working with the chilies. Once your wok is really hot, you should start to see like little wisps of smoke. Add in a touch of cooking oil, something like canola or vegetable, and drop in your protein. Place these pieces in a thin, even layer so they can brown nicely on that first side, and let them sit for a few seconds. These need maybe a minute in total, so once you see the tops turning opaque, give them a mix. As you start to see no more pink, you can remove the chicken from the wok and drop the heat to a medium. Your chicken's gonna be cooked, I promise you. These are thin enough pieces to where as soon as the outside's cooked, the inside's almost there. With your heat dropped to a medium, add in another few tablespoons of cooking oil and then drop in your chili paste. It's important to not keep your heat on high for this specific stage so you don't smoke yourself out. Mix these around for about 15 seconds or so until you see a little bit of brown on the shallot. I like to include shallot in my chili paste for this reason. It gives the garlic and chilies a little bit of an insulation from the high heat of the oil. Once you see that nice and browned, add in your veggies and crank the heat back up to a high. If you mix this rapidly, the large veggies should also help in insulating the chilies and garlic. After roughly 45 seconds to a minute, add in your cooked noodles along with all of the sauce and your sugar. Mix this to combine all of that beautiful sauce into all of the noodles and let it sit on the heat for a few seconds so you can hear the noodles start to cook into the sauce at the bottom of the pan. You should be able to keep an ear out for some nice charring taking place. The charring of the noodles like this creates a ton of depth to the savory sauce. Add your chicken back in and mix well, and then you can tear in your basil. Toss this one last time and check it for final seasoning. I usually add just a pinch of salt here just to finish it off, and it is ready to devour. This easily hits the stir-fried noodle craving like crazy. It's spicy from all those chilies, it's garlicky, it's got the perfect texture of those chewy rice noodles. Some of them are charred and a little bit darker, so you're getting like lots of smoky flavor, and it is just crazy delicious. It's also a great way to practice stir-frying as it's really quick and you get a lot of food out of it. I think this is absolutely worth mastering and worth working into your arsenal because of how customizable and delicious it is. Thank you so much for watching. If you're like me and you've got a resolution to get substantially better at cooking this year, join me on this journey. I challenge you to make your customized Pad Kee Mao and tag me on Instagram at CameronCookedThis so I can share my progress as well as yours. We can sort of go on this journey together. We're starting to get into the harder recipes of this series. So if you're looking for something more challenging, stick around and subscribe. If you're looking for something a little bit easier, check out the last video in this series on Caesar salad. I think you'll really enjoy it. Thank you so much to all the amazing people supporting me directly on Patreon through patreon.com/CameronMarty. If you're interested in becoming a patron, they get some cool benefits for supporting, and it just helps me keep the lights on. Thanks again for watching. Cheers.